So I'm on my back. I'm in the middle of her parents' driveway. She's squatting over me with her right knee, pushing hard on my chest, and her left hand is pushing on my forehead, holding me down. And I open my mouth to tell her to stop it and let me up. And with her right hand, she grabs a handful of gravel and dirt and puts it in my mouth. And this floods my system with adrenaline. I jump up, I'm spitting out gravel and mud. I'm full of fury and fear. And all I can taste is iron and salt. And I look up and I realize I'm crying. I look at her and I'm confused. I'm sad, I'm embarrassed, and I want to kick her ass. So Katie and I met sometime in the 6th grade. I'm not really sure when we met. I don't remember the exact moment, but I definitely remember the circumstances where we became friends. Part of being a 12-year-old woman is that it's a nightmare. Your whole body is growing and poking out in new, strange ways, and it's all very public. And much like Robin, I also got pantsed, and my magic pants pulled down my panties as well. At a very awkward moment, I was in shop class using a bandsaw. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about bandsaws, but they're a pretty dangerous machine, and it's not really advised to operate one with no pants. And when you are operating one with no pants suddenly, there's a little bit of a procedure to get to the point where you can pull your pants up, and this is the procedure. 1, keep a solid hold on the wood you are cutting with one hand while you reach up with the other and firmly press the stop button. 2, maintain your hold on the wood until the saw blade comes to a complete stop. This should take no more than 15 to 30 seconds. 3, pull up your pants. So despite my usual preteen disdain for rules and authority, this was one moment where I actually followed the procedure. And I don't really remember the moment between the pants dropping and me pulling them up and the moment where I turned around, looked at everybody and said, "You're all fuckers," before running off to the pink tiled bathroom to cry. And this is where my flair for cinematics and the influx of Degrassi Junior High sort of clouds my memory. So this next part, I'm not really sure if it's actually true. But I want to think that Katie came in and was the person that offered me solace as I sat between the 2 wall-mounted sinks, but I'm not entirely sure that happened. What I'm sure happened is that shortly after the pantsing, I lost almost every single friend that I had made in the last few years, and Katie and I got really close as a result. By the time we got into high school, we'd already developed a language that was uniquely ours, to the point where nobody else around us could understand. And this was a language that was comprised of a myriad of references we got from watching Fawlty Towers, SNL, Kids in the Hall, listening to The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, lots of Sisters of Mercy. We were reading Walt Whitman, Neruda, beat poetry, and most importantly, the Illuminatus trilogy. All hail Eris, all hail Discordia. Anybody? Nobody? Okay, 1. Yay, nerds. We even had the first boyfriend. Same first boyfriend. She got to him first. It wasn't simultaneous. She did most things first. She seemed a lot older than I. She developed faster. She was a lot more kind of forward and curious than I was, a lot more bold. She was the first to smoke, the first to drink, the first to have sex, and the first one to do drugs. And despite my outward appearance of giving no fucks, at the time I had short, spiky yellow hair and a gang of face piercings, and I would intentionally rip my nylons. I actually was a really good kid, and I didn't really do much that would get me in trouble. And as we got older, this created a rift in our relationship that just kind of led to me not being able to relate to her. She'd talk a lot about getting high and making out with boys, and I was just cool, I'm still watching The Muppet Show, you know? But the one thing we could still relate on is that we desperately wanted to get out of our extremely conservative, shitty little hometown. And I made numerous attempts again and again and again and again and again to do this without any success except once. So the way I got out of my hometown is that when I was 14 years old, I found out about an opportunity to do a foreign exchange. And I started the application process, and I went through a series of interviews, and I started raising money, and eventually I got it. I got to go, you know? And the way I got to go is that I was the first person from my hometown that had ever done a foreign exchange. And I was like, there's no way my mom can say no to this. And so I started to go. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I forged my mom's signature for like 8 months to get to the point where I was accepted. And I also didn't tell Katie what my plan was. So by the time I'm getting to go to Europe, Katie and I were kind of on the rocks. And the whole time I was in Europe, I only heard from her once, and I received a letter from her at Christmas time. And in the letter, she says a few things. She says that she's angry that I didn't tell her what my plan was. She says she feels abandoned and betrayed, that she's lonely. She's discovered that she's bisexual. She doesn't know who to talk to about it, and she started smoking pot. And I try to call her, and I send her letters, and she doesn't reply. And so I just kind of let it go. But when I come back, everything's fine. We're just like peas in a pod again. And so I think everything's okay until school starts up again. And her new friends that she got the year while I was gone start drifting back in. And I realized that pot isn't the only drug that Katie's into. So over the course of about 6 months, I watched my best friend of 7 years go from being a occasional pot-smoking, kind of friendly hippie kid to being a strung-out morphine addict who's trading her body for drugs. And I confront her about it, and that's when I find myself on my back in the dirt in her parents' driveway. I don't know if any of you have ever confronted an addict or been this close to an addict. Before that, I had heard that they'll do anything to get their fix. And after having experienced it firsthand, I don't ever want anybody to experience it. It's more true than you can imagine. It broke my heart. And from that moment on, she didn't exist for me. For a year following our fight, I didn't speak to her or look at her. When I'd pass her in the hallway, I would look through her. Meanwhile, we graduate from high school, the internet happens, she goes to Alaska, I start getting ready for college. And on the day I'm leaving for college, I've just left my parents' house with my car completely packed, and I decide I'm going to stop in the Walmart because there isn't one in the town where I'm going to school. And I'm in the Walmart, and I don't even know what I'm getting, and I see her, and she sees me, and I'm like, oh fuck. And so I turn down the aisle to avoid her, and she follows me. And I turn down another, and she follows me again, until we've woven our way into the back corner of the store, and we're in the bicycle section, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to pretend to hide behind the frame of a 10-speed, so I pretend to shop for a 10-speed. And I wait for her to approach me, and she does. And she says, Christy. And we talk, and she tells me she's clean, and I go to her parents' house for dinner, and I stay until 11 o'clock at night, and then I drive 3 hours to the University of Wyoming, and I start college. And we're still friends, but it's never been the same since. And I don't know if it will ever be the same. We talk a couple times a year, holidays and birthdays mostly, and we visited each other a few times, but our lives are so different, I don't know if there's any meeting point anymore. Like, she's in Alaska, off-grid, with a husband and 3 kids, and I live in Silver Lake with a housemate and an aging cat.
That's true. Sorry.